The decision to write this story has been a difficult one, as the memories still sting like fresh wounds. It's about betrayal, pain, and an unwavering resolve to reclaim dignity and peace. It all began when I uncovered the truth about my wife's affair. 2 weeks ago, I discovered that the boy I had raised as my son for 5 years wasn't biologically mine. The revelation came after my sister, who's always been my closest confidant, suggested I take a paternity test. She pointed out how little my son resembled me, and while I initially dismissed her concerns, her persistence wore me down. When the results came back, I felt my world shatter. The boy I had loved and cherished wasn't my biological child. Anger and betrayal coursed through me as I confronted my wife of 6 years. In my rage, I hurled accusations and called her names I now regret. Through her tears, she admitted to a one-night stand during a rough patch in our relationship. She claimed she didn't know for sure whether I was the father and decided against a paternity test, choosing instead to preserve our family. Her justification only deepened my sense of betrayal. I told her I wanted a divorce and had no intention of staying in our son's life. She begged me to reconsider, insisting that I was the only father he'd ever known and that she'd been loyal since her mistake. Her pleas fell on deaf ears as I stormed out, unable to process the depth of her deceit. In my anger, I confided in family and friends, exposing her infidelity. The fallout was immediate. Her parents disowned her, and my sister fiercely defended me, confronting my wife and even calling out her sister, who had tried to downplay the situation. My wife's sister accused me of being weak and insecure, but her words only fueled my resolve. I contacted her husband, advising him to take his own precautions, and left no room for further discussion. Amid the chaos, I realized I couldn't abandon my son entirely. Despite the betrayal, he was innocent in all this, and I couldn't bear the thought of him suffering because of his mother's actions. I visited him, trying to explain in gentle terms that I would be around less, but would always love him. Seeing his joy at my presence reminded me of the bond we shared, one that transcended DNA. Every visit to my former home was fraught with tension. My wife clung to me, apologizing and begging for another chance. She promised to take paternity tests for any future children and to dedicate herself to rebuilding our relationship. But her desperation only highlighted the depth of her betrayal. I told her that her actions had destroyed not just our marriage, but also the trust that formed its foundation. Therapy became my refuge during this turbulent time. It helped me process the anger and grief and reminded me to focus on what truly mattered: my son's well-being. I decided to tolerate my wife's presence for his sake, visiting him frequently and ensuring he felt loved and supported. But I remained firm in my decision to divorce. Her family's attempts at reconciliation grew more insistent as the weeks passed. They argued that I should forgive her for the sake of our family, emphasizing her remorse and loyalty since the affair. But I couldn't ignore the magnitude of her betrayal. The idea of rebuilding our relationship felt like a betrayal of myself and the values I held dear. As Christmas approached, I spent time with my son, creating new memories and cherishing our bond. But the holiday gathering turned into yet another plea for reconciliation. My wife and her family argued that the past should stay in the past and that our love for our son should bring us back together. Their words fell flat. I had tried my best to keep the peace for my son, but I couldn't compromise my integrity. I informed my wife that I had hired a lawyer and was moving forward with the divorce. Her reaction was a mix of despair and anger. She accused me of giving up on our family, but I reminded her that it was her actions that had brought us to this point. I told her that I'd fight for custody of our son, not out of spite, but because I wanted to ensure his well-being. The months since the revelation have been some of the hardest of my life. I've questioned my choices, grappled with guilt and anger, and worked tirelessly to build a stable future for my son and me. I've sought forgiveness, not for my wife but for myself, for the moments of rage, the words spoken in anger, and the pain that's lingered in my heart. Through it all, my son remains my anchor. He's the reason I've fought so hard to maintain a semblance of normalcy amid the chaos. While I may not be his biological father, I am and always will be his dad. That bond is unbreakable, forged not by blood, but by love and devotion. As for my wife, I've let go of the anger. It's not forgiveness, but a recognition that holding on to resentment only harms me. She'll live with the consequences of her choices, just as I'll live with mine. My focus now is on healing, on finding peace, and on being the best father I can be. This journey has been one of pain and growth, of heartbreak and resilience. It's a reminder that even in our darkest moments, we have the strength to rise, to rebuild, and to move forward. The scars may remain, but they are a testament to the battles fought and the lessons learned. The road ahead is uncertain, but I face it with courage and the unwavering belief that brighter days lie ahead. My story isn't just about betrayal. It's about reclaiming my life, protecting my son, and embracing the future with hope and strength.